Hi, we're back with another TBR spinner video. I'm Jordan with Books and Brew Shoe, and let's get into it. So I just realized that I'm wearing a very similar outfit to the last time that I filmed a spinner wheel TBR video. I guess it's, I don't know, something that I like to wear. Flannels and a Motley Crue t-shirt. Motley Crue is my favorite band, so I have a giant tattoo of them on my arm as well. So let's get into our May TBR video. So I realized in my last TBR video that I didn't explain the spinner wheels very well. So let's get into that right now. Actually, let me scoot over a little bit so I can put up photos over here with what they look like. So first of all, we have our audiobook spinner wheel. And on how I came up with the different slices on this spinner wheel. So I've got them up here in alphabetical order, so they're a little bit easier to tell kind of what's going on. So basically, I have an overall 2025 TBR, just of books that I would like to read this year. So these are books for continuing series or a new series that I'm really excited to start, or just random books that I've heard really good things about. That's kind of like a priority TBR for me throughout the year. So I have my physical spinner wheel has the books that I have physically, and the audiobook one either has books that I don't have physically or specific audiobooks that I've heard really good things about. So I've added those audiobooks on here from the 2025 TBR and ones that I've heard really good things about. I also have a couple of autobiography slices. So I really enjoy celebrity autobiographies. So I like to get those from the library. So that's why there are two slices on here. We've got a couple of books that I've just heard really good things about. We've got a couple of continuing series, and then free pick, so that's just an audiobook that I can pick whatever. Some authors on here that I've really wanted to get into, or read some of their books. A genre spin, so that's just, we've got another spinner wheel with a bunch of different genres on there, so spin that. Pick a book within that genre. Library pick, just picking a book from the library, an audiobook from the library, which honestly, that's where I get 99% of my audiobooks anyways, just because I don't like to pay for audiobooks. I'd rather just get them for free from the library. And then seasonal pick, so that's just a book set in the current season that we're in. So right now would be spring, and then yep, just some continuing series. So then, of course, we get an ad. Then with our big physical TBR spinner wheel, I've got listed a bunch of different years or decades, groups of years, and those are just for picking a book that was published during that year. So like the 1980s, picking a book published in the 80s. Or 90s or 2000s, 2010s, and then as we get newer, I start just to go by individual year. We've also got just a couple of series, again, that are on the 2025 TBR, some of the series that I'm in the middle of that I need to finish. We've got our author first and last. I've got two different spinner wheels. One is the first half of the alphabet, and the other is the second half of the alphabet. And we just have to, once we spin that wheel, we pick an author whose last name starts with that letter. We've got a couple book of the month slices on there, so that's just picking a book of the month book. A bunch of series that I'm in, again, a genre spin, an iBook, because I tend to forget that I have books on iBooks that I don't have on the Kindle app. So it's good to, hey, you have these books, you gotta read those ones too. More series. I've got on here the oldest Goodreads, so that just means in my want to read list on Goodreads, the oldest book that's on there, or the oldest book that I have on my Kindle. We've also got, the Pascal pick. That's my kitty cat, Pascal. So that would mean he would get to pick a book for me, just with like a little treat or something. I've got a series pick. We've got a series spin wheel where we would just spin that spin wheel and pick a book. Because in that spin wheel is all the series that I'm in the middle of. We've got a couple of shelf spin slices. So if we land on a shelf spin, we go to that spinner wheel, it gives us a number, and we can pick a book off of that specific shelf in my house. I've got a Taylor pick. Taylor's my sister. She also loves to read, especially fantasy, so that means she would get to pick a book of mine. Just a couple more series that I'm in. We've got an Austin pick. So Austin is my boyfriend, so he would pick a book for me. So that's just kind of an overview of the spinner wheels and what exactly is on them and explaining them a little more, because I realized I didn't explain it very well on my last video. So let's go ahead and get into our first spin for our Kindle, or our audiobook TBR. So we do 4 audiobook spins. So let's go ahead and kick it off and get our first book. Okay. While that's spinning, I'm gonna drink some water. Okay, our first is Fits Along. Okay, so the Fits Along is a read-along of Robin Hobb's Realm of the Elderlings series. So I did pretty well with it last year. I read the books back to back to back of the first 2 trilogies, and honestly, I kind of got burnt out on it a little bit. I was listening to them in audiobook form. So I'm good with getting back into them. I haven't read one since about August of last year. So let me bring up my little graphic and see which book I'm on. So I am on the Tawny Man trilogy, and Fool's Errand is the first book in that trilogy. So we will be adding Fool's Errand to our May TBR. Okay, let's get back into the spin wheel and spin for our second pick for our audiobooks. Cat hair in my mouth. And we get the Inheritance series. Okay, that's awesome. So I read or listened to the second book in the Inheritance series last month, which was Eldest. So now for May, I get to listen to Brissinger, which is perfect. I freaking love that series. So Brissinger is a reread for me, but that's very exciting because I love that series. Cool. Okay, third audiobook spin. Let's see what we get. Okay. We get a Frederick Bachman book. Awesome. Okay, so I have not read any Frederick Bachman books. So let me go on to Libby and see which ones are available for us. Okay, so it looks like A Man Called Uva is available for an audiobook at the library. So I will be reading A Man Called Uva by Frederick Bachman in May. So let's go ahead and spin our last spin for our audiobook for our May TBR. Okay, last spin. And we get Atomic Habits. Awesome. Okay, so this is a pretty popular book, nonfiction. I believe it's kind of a self-help book. It was recommended to me by one of my friends. So we will be reading Atomic Habits in May. So now let's transition over to our physical TBR wheel. And let me make sure I'm screen recording, because there's been a time where I forgot to do that. Okay, so let's do our first spin for our physical TBR. And we get, ooh, a book published in 2022. Okay, so we will go ahead and pick those books at the end. So let me get a pen and paper so that I can write this down and not forget. Okay, so we just got a book published in 2022. Let's see what our second spin will be. Ah, well, what the river knows. Okay, well, I'm currently reading that book. Obviously, I didn't update this super well, but what we can do is add the second book in that series, which is What the Library Hides, onto our TBR. So I can go ahead and get that book. I will probably get it from Book of the Month so that it matches my the first book, that copy. So for our second book, it will be What the Library Hides. So our third spin. Hopefully we will get a different type of wheel. A Read Across America book, which we also got that wheel last month. And I honestly don't think I'm going to get to that book because I have a lot in my TBR because Aurelium is my priority. So let's go ahead and spin the Read Across America wheel and see which state we get. So we get, hopefully it's a good one. Okay, North Dakota. So let me get on to Instagram and look up that post and see which book we have for North Dakota. So the book for North Dakota is The Night Watchman by Louise Erdrich, which I've never heard of. So Goodreads says that this book is based on the extraordinary life of National Book Award winning Louise Erdrich's grandfather, who worked as a night watchman and carried the fight against native dispossession from rural North Dakota all the way to Washington, D.C. This powerful novel explores themes of love and death with lightness and gravity and unfolds with the elegant prose, sly humor, and depth of feeling of a master craftsman. So we will see. Hopefully I can get that book from the library and we will see what that one's all about. Okay, let's get our spinner wheel pulled back up for our fourth spin. Let's get the screen recording going and get our fourth spin underway. These videos always go too fast for me. Oh man, our fourth spin for our physical. And we get our series to finish. So let's go to our series to finish wheel and spin. Let's see which series we get to read. The London Prep series. Oh my gosh. Okay. This is a series by Jillian Dodd. about a prep school in London, and an American girl moves to London to go to this school. And I believe I'm on book number 5 in this series. It's been a couple years since I have read this series, just because the books got taken off of KU. And so I am super excited to get back into this world. We'll be adding London Prep number 5 to the TBR. Back to our other wheel. Wait our 3 seconds. And spin for our 5th physical book. And it is Immortal. Okay, awesome. So, Immortal by Sulin Tan. This is the Fairy Loot exclusive edition of this book. So this just recently came out. It was the January 2025 pick for Fairy Loot. So excited to read more of my Fairy Loot books. This is a beautiful naked hardcover and some really pretty art. So we will be adding Immortal onto our May TBR. Okay, last spin. And then we also have to still pick a book that was published in 2022. So let's go ahead and do our last spin. Let's see what that is. Okay, the Douchebag series. So I am on the fourth book in this series. This series is called How to Date a Douchebag, and I am on the 4th book. And this one's called The Coaching Hours. So these books are set they're in a college setting, college romance, follow around different people for each book. I read the 3rd book in this series at the end of last year, and I enjoyed it more than I thought I would. So these books, every single one, I've actually enjoyed more than I thought I would. Not very long, usually right around 300 pages. This one says, there are no douchebags in this story. Well, there are, but they're not who this story is about. This story is about me, the coach's daughter. When I moved to Iowa to live with my dad, the university's Take No Prisoners wrestling coach, I thought transferring would be easy as pie. Living with my father would be temporary, and he'd make sure his douchebag wrestlers left me alone. Wrong on both counts. Assholes always come out of the woodwork when the stakes are high. A bet is placed, and I'm on the table. After one humiliating night and too much alcohol, I find the last guy on campus. And when he offers to rent me his spare bedroom, I go all in. It's time for the nice guy to finish first. Midnight chats and spilling my problems turn into lingering touches. Lingering touches turn to more. And the ultimate good guy has the potential to do more damage than any douchebags ever could. So, coach's daughter, wrestling team, excited to finish out, excited to get to read another book in this series. Okay, so let's go ahead and get a list together of books that were published in 2022 that I'm interested in reading. So I perused my lists, and it was between the 6th book in the London Prep series. So I would be reading 2 of the London Prep series this month, or starting a new series and reading Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. Now, I haven't read any Abby Jimenez books, but I've heard amazing things about her writing and her books. So I have decided to go with Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. Now, I've put a hold in at the library, so hopefully that book will come in time for us to read that book during May. Now, if it doesn't, I will go ahead and pick a different book published in 2022 to read for the month. Now, Before we end the video, I forgot that we still have to pick our Year in Eldia book for May. So let me pull up the map and see where we will be going. So right now, we are on spot 4A, and we can either move from 4A to 5A or to 5D. So let's see what the prompts are for 5A and 5D. So for 5A, it's maze. You reach an entrance to a ginormous maze, which is not on your map at all. It must be a traveling one. Only way forward is through. Pick a book from a series longer than 3 books. So essentially a series that has 4 or more books. Now, if we're moving from 4A to 5D, it's search for the Sun Dancer. On your left, you see a maze. It's mysterious and inviting, but to your right is a possible sighting of a sun dancer, a creature that only emerges once a year, and only in this area. It's on your bucket list and you cannot resist, so you leave the maze behind. Pick a book where the main character is a dancer or dancing is an important part of the book. Okay. Well, since I just picked a book for starting a series, let's go ahead and go to 5A and go through the maze and pick a book from a series that is 3 books or longer. So let's go ahead and go to our series spinner wheel and pick a book from there, that way, so that we can just try. Okay, so let's go ahead and spin and see what it comes up with. Okay, so Sherlock Holmes, the books that I have, there's only 2 books, and I'm on the 2nd book. So let's go ahead and spin again, since that does not fit the criteria of the prompt. Okay, Hunger Games. There are definitely more than 3 books in that series, and Sunrise and the Reaping just came out. So I already have a hold on Libby to get the audiobook. So it will be touch and go if it's available in May or not. I will put a hold in at the library for a physical copy of the book as well. So hopefully that will come through, because I have to read that book for my Year in Eldia. So if we get towards the end of the month and neither of those holds have come in from the library, I will bite the bullet and I will just purchase the book somewhere, whether it's through Everand or Audible or something. So we will definitely get that somewhere. Okay, so book from 2022, we went ahead and went with A Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. And then we got What the Library Hides for our 2nd. For our 3rd, we got Read Across America with North Dakota and The Night Watchman. We got a London Prep. Was that a book in a series that we spun the wheel for? I can't remember, but we got the 5th book in the London Prep series. Then we spun and got Immortal by Sue Lynn Tan, which is a Fairy Loot book. And then we also spun and got the Douchebag series. So we will be reading the 4th book in that series. Plus some really good audiobooks. We got Brissinger, we got a Frederick Bachman, Atomic Habits, and then also continuing the Fits along with Fool's Errand. So we've got a really, really good TBR for May. So leave me a comment down below. Let me know if you have read any of these books and you like them, or if you're really excited to read any of the books on our TBR. Give this video a like if you like the Spinner Wheel TBRs, and subscribe if you want to. Bye!